Hi, everybody. I'm Bill with Nutricost. I'm here with Dr. Treg Corbridge. He's a podiatrist who emphasizes in wound care and diabetic ulcer management, correct?
It's a lot of what I do, yeah.
Okay.
Just the nature of working down in the feet and with the prevalence of obesity and neuropathy, that's just a lot of the patient profile that we have up there. So,
Perfect. Well, why don't you just take a minute, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what brought you to where you're at now?
yeah, sure. Treg Corbridge, I'm from a little farm town in Idaho called Aberdeen, about a town of 1,500 people. So I grew up in a rural farming community. That's basically what everybody did was farm. So I was either, my future was either farm or go to school. So that's what I ended up doing, is going to school. I had a lot of injuries when I was younger, ruptured my Achilles, broke my femur, did my ACL meniscus. So medicine was something that kind of intrigued me. So I went to BYU, Idaho, did my undergrad in exercise physiology. I've always had a passion for exercise and sports, and so that's kind of what kind of pushed me going further into medicine. So I really enjoyed like the nutrition and the exercise portion. I did some bodybuilding when I was going to college, and so I really just kind of got interested in supplementation as well. Went to podiatry school in California, completed my degree there, and then did my residency in Salt Lake City. So.
Now, you'd mentioned a little bit about bodybuilding. I did want to ask you, like, aside from podiatry and medicine, what are kind of some things that you're passionate about?
I fly fish a ton. I've married, got a little boy. He's 3 years old, so we enjoy going outdoors and doing stuff with him. I still train every single day and go to the gym. Really enjoy playing sports and just being active. That's kind of that bodybuilding and sports is kind of transitioned now to outdoor stuff and hiking and fishing, and just at this point it's all about longevity. I don't want to be the biggest guy. I just want to be able to hike 10 miles and not feel like I got beat up. So
Yeah, that fitness for life, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what would be something that maybe would surprise people if they found out about you? Doesn't have to be a dark secret.
I enjoy making YouTube videos. I don't know if it's a small channel. I started doing it last year. We've got a couple thousand subscribers and some sponsors on there, but it was just something I have always wanted to do. Every time I go out fishing and stuff, I always have cameras and recording it anyways. I didn't really transition that into making content with it until about a year ago. A few of the videos of there they've done well or whatever. So people, I don't know, but I guess people wouldn't think, doctor doing YouTube travel videos, that kind of stuff, outdoor stuff. But that's just one of the side hobbies that I enjoy doing.
Awesome. Well, let's dive a little bit into podiatry. Wound care, right, is one of your emphases.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So I actually work in 2 separate wound care clinics currently, aside from my private practice that I'm in. Wound care is kind of a different beast, and especially, like I said, kind of the prevalence of diabetes. When we're working down in the feet, we have really poor blood flow. Patients have neuropathy, so they don't have good sensation down there to their feet. Their immune system is compromised. They don't have good kidney function. They have, like I said, their arteries are usually calcified, so they have poor blood flow down to the area, down to the foot. So it's usually a pretty involved process. It's weekly visits, sometimes twice weekly. We get home healthcare nurses involved, and they're changing dressings, and it's really just trying to manage the wounds appropriately to get them to be able to heal. But a lot of times that's a really drawn out process. There's patients I've been seeing every single week for more than a year now that we're still treating ulcers and wounds on.
Wow. So there's diabetic ulcers and wounds. Those are separate issues, or sometimes the same, or
there's different classifications of wounds. You can classify them into neuropathic, which is kind of where I place diabetes anyways, ischemic, arterial ulcers, decubitus, meaning pressure ulcers, and then venous ulcers, where like they have poor blood flow returning up to the heart of their venous system, so they get ulcerations down on their lower legs. So.
Yeah. And specifically for diabetics, is there like another type of foot issue that's really common that you deal with?
Neuropathy is one of the main things that we treat in the office, just the nature of the beast, right? They just high blood sugar just wreaks havoc on your system. It really is hard on your nervous system. It's really hard on your arterial system. It's hard on your brain. It's hard on your immune system. It really wreaks havoc on people. And so that's just what we see a lot of.
Yeah. Well, good thing there's hardly any sugar in our food, right?
Yeah, good. Everything's low fat now, right. So we're all good.
It's all good for us.
Yeah.
So aside from diabetics, what are some of the, I mean, is it only diabetics that you see, or is that just the majority?
That's just the majority, just because they're so compromised. But I'll see arterial ulcers. I see a lot of pressure ulcers on like heels,
Right.
bedbound patients, that type of stuff. I see a lot of venous ulcers as well. So it's just kind of a mix of everything. By and large, though, most patients will be diabetic and then they'll have multiple issues. And so it's sometimes a mixture between, you try to classify them into like certain classifications and give them whatever, but usually it's just a mixture of all the things that have led to that point in their life.
I know that like bone spurs and bunions and
Plantar
fasciitis.
Yeah.
I have plantar fasciitis. It's something that I've dealt with since I was 26, and I've got it under control. I think for the most part, I haven't really had any problems in a few years. But are those pretty common then?
Yeah, so that's more like in my private practice. Those are like the types of patients that we see: ingrown toenails, the musculoskeletal stuff, arthritis, plantar fasciitis. Sports injuries, fractures, those types of things as well.
Now, when you mention sports injuries, is there like a specific sport or a specific type of athlete that is more prone to injury that you see more of than others, or is it just kind of everything?
Yeah, the weekend warrior, 40-year-old, then went out to play and ruptured his Achilles. Yeah, that's kind of the classic story. Ankle sprains, that type of stuff. But yeah, truly, it's our older, 30, 40-year-old guys that still think they can do all the things that they were doing when they're 18.
Now I'm 40.
I'm close. I'm encroaching on 40, but.
Well, I saw a meme the other day that said the greatest cause of injury in old men is thinking that they're young men.
Yeah.
And I'm a nutrition coach and a personal trainer, and so I wanted to amend that. And in my personal opinion, it's the greatest cause of injury in old men is not doing anything and then randomly acting like they're young men.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like I keep up with it. And so when I go and I overexert myself, I generally don't hurt myself, except for right now I'm nursing a rib injury. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, just jumping off the couch and deciding that you're going to go run a marathon is not a great idea. Same idea if you haven't played basketball in 5 years and you're just going to go show up to your church ball game and injure yourself. So I definitely, especially when I'm rehabbing patients coming back from injuries, I'm very big on physical therapy, appropriately rehabbing things, even things like ankle sprains. We'll see a lot of times where like people have under-rehabilitated ankle sprains that they injured the ligaments, but you have dynamic and you have static stabilizers to the ankle. And so, they injured the ligaments, those scarred back down, that's okay, but their dynamic stabilizers, the peroneal tendons on the outside of the ankle, they didn't appropriately rehab those. And they kind of get into this just status of dysfunction, and they just still have continued weakness and pain. So even things on ankle sprains, I'm really big on just rehabilitation and making sure that that's done appropriately.
Right. Now, I know that one of the problems when you talk about under-rehabilitating, a lot of times people will get their physical therapy that they're supposed to do, and they'll do it for a few weeks, and it'll start to feel better, and then they stop. Yeah. Right? What would, I guess, be the recommendation if they have some physical therapy? Like, how long after it feels better should they keep doing that?
After it starts feeling better, I generally say, okay, let's give this 6 to 8 weeks, and let's make sure that you can get back to as close to 100% as full activity as possible. And then just know that there's probably things that you're going to have to do continued moving on to prevent injury.
Right.
Stretching, I'm huge on stretching, making sure that a lot of the issues come about from tendon imbalances, muscular skeletal imbalances. And so stretching, and then, if you've noticed a slight twinge, pain, whatever, don't just keep playing. Take a step back and make sure that that's taken care of before you keep going.
Right. Don't muscle through it.
Yeah.
And when you're younger,
you can.
I would roll my ankle playing and be like, oh, this is fine. And then, 2 days later, I'd be fine. And I did that once at 35 and it turned purple and I couldn't use it for a week. And so, absolutely.
Yeah.
As I was getting ready for this, I started reading more about like natural podiatry and I think it has a few different names, but the idea that we should do more prevention and more to strengthen our feet so that we're not having to do the recovery work, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what are your thoughts on that and what do you recommend?
Yeah, I love people staying as active as possible and being able to do the things that they love. That's truly the discussion that I have with people all day long is like, okay, what's the problem? how is this limiting you? How is this affecting your life? What things can't you do? Okay, let's get you back to where you want to be. And then just, I mean, staying active is huge, and doing certain things to strengthen. I'm huge on obviously strength training. You know, Wolf's Law is very real. The body responds to the stresses that you place on it. So if you're strength training, you're going to have better bone density. You're going to have better musculature. You're going to be, which are key indicators, I guess, for as you're aging, your longevity that you're going to have. There's certain guys that I really like knees over toes guy. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh, I've got bad knees, so I'm very familiar with them. They're great now, by the way.
Yeah.
But they were terrible a few years ago. So yeah, I know knees over toes guys.
Guys that are kind of pushing the boundaries like him and kind of breaking down the dogma of what we were always taught, you know, as training and really promoting healthy, active lifestyle and proper training. I recommend that stuff a ton to patients.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, is there something like knees over toes that's specific for the feet that you would recommend?
Yeah, totally. So strength. So his big thing is strengthen tibialis anterior, and focus a lot on that. Strength. As far as strengthening the feet, I really like keeping the foot in proper alignment. So wide toe box shoes, that's the number one thing that I look for in shoes. Now, Ultras is a great brand. I'm wearing Flux right now, FLUX. That's a free plug. I like them a lot. They're really good shoe. And that's honestly just keeping the foot in its proper alignment and allowing it to splay gives you a much more stable foot. A lot of, times people come in like, I got a bunion, I look at their toe box and it's a tight toe box. It's squeezing their toes. Like, yeah, I got a Taylor's bunion or I got plantar fasciitis. When that big toe is pushed over, it really weakens the medial column and it can put more stress on the musculature around it or, the ligaments. And so you can start to see some dysfunction even just from like shoe gear. Along with that, there's like the strengthening of the intrinsic muscles. You can do that with like the toe separators. Right. I've seen that kind of stuff. Crunching a towel with your toes and doing that kind of stuff, but just strengthening your foot and going barefoot. Barefoot's not a bad thing. I wouldn't recommend that somebody who's not been barefoot their entire life, go out and decide that they're going to start running 10 miles or run a marathon barefoot. But if you start easing into some type of barefoot activities, especially being in grass like that, that type of stuff is great. I wouldn't go run on concrete barefoot or, all those injuries that we see associated with, I guess, overuse, which can come about if you've been supporting your foot entire life and then not supporting it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people who read The Barefoot Runner. Yeah, and then they decide that they're just going to go cold turkey and start running barefoot, wearing the bare toes shoes. And they're like, my feet hurt, and I don't know why. I read this book, and it said it a few. And it's exactly like any other muscle, though, right? Like you have to do it little by little. If you go your first day and you think you're going to bench 350, you're going to have a really uncomfortable neck. Absolutely. Toe spreaders. Are there any other like therapies or device? I know getting ready for this, I looked into the Foot Collective. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They do something similar to knees over toes. Okay. But they have some apparatuses that they sell that are specific for rewilding your toes, they call it. I don't know if really? That's anything that you're
I'll have to look at it. I haven't looked at the Foot Collective, so you gave me some homework
for them. Yeah. Also. Well, where can people find you online and in person? You have a social presence, it sounds like?
Somewhat. I mean, I'm not huge by any means, but our website's corbridgepodiatry.com. My YouTube channel is at Treg's Travels, so TREG, then Travels, or TREGS. That's kind of the best stuff. We have a website or an Instagram for Corbridge Podiatry as well. We haven't done a ton on there, but yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. It was great having you, sir.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.